and we will get started momentarily. All right. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Abhijit Deshpande, and I'm going to talk about civil engineering versus construction management. What are the similarities and what are the differences between these disciplines? Corinne already introduced me. I am an associate professor educator in the construction management program at the University of Cincinnati, and I also serve in the role of program director of the construction management program. My bachelor's is in construction engineering, which is a subset of civil engineering. So I think I will be able to speak with great deal of confidence about these two disciplines. Before I get to civil engineering or construction management, I want to share a really interesting statistic with you. In the last year, a lot of money was spent on construction, despite of us being in the middle of a pandemic. Can you guess how much money was spent on construction last year? You can unmute yourself and just blurt out a number.
Several billion of some sort, I'm assuming.
Okay, several thousand billions is what the correct number is. So last year, according to US Census Bureau, $1.589 trillion. So $1,589 billion were spent on construction alone in the United States. And this trend is only accelerating. If you look at, where was this money spent in the US, you'll notice that there are two different types of projects. The first one is public projects. So that means our state government, our federal government, our cities spending on maintaining infrastructure like roads, bridges, etc. So that was close to about $400 billion. And the rest of the money was spent by private companies, individuals, etc., on their projects. So if you add them all up, you are looking at $1.6 trillion worth of construction spend. And in every single one of those projects, there was a civil engineer and there was a construction manager involved in some way, shape, or form, in some capacity in making those projects real. So when you think about civil engineering and construction management, what type of projects are we talking about? I like to say that as civil engineers, we are going to design civilizations, because a modern civilization cannot exist without our services. So for example, the house that you live in, right? All the infrastructure needed to design and build that house, that is a civil engineer's work, and the construction manager is going to actually build it. The schools, your high school, your middle school, universities, all of those buildings, they are designed by civil engineers and built by construction managers. The highways and bridges that you drive on, those are again also designed by civil engineers and built by construction managers. The mixed-use buildings, the high-rise buildings that you see going up in very large cities, those are also built by construction managers, but they're designed by civil engineers. The large warehouses and factories that are coming back to the US, those are also designed and built by civil engineers and construction managers. And lastly, healthcare projects, the large hospitals that you see going up around you, they are all designed by civil engineers and built by construction managers. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing out on some category of projects, but you can see from this list of projects that, without our involvement, civil engineers and construction managers involvement, a modern society cannot really function, right? So because of this, getting into this profession or getting into this discipline, either civil engineering or construction management, is going to open so many opportunities and so many different possibilities for the rest of your life. So at the University of Cincinnati, we have the Department of Civil and Architectural Engineering and Construction Management. We are one of very few programs in the United States that have the three disciplines together under the same roof: civil engineering, architectural engineering, and construction management. We are not going to talk about architectural engineering because this session is focused on civil engineering and construction management. What are the differences between the two? What are the similarities between the two? Okay, so since we are talking about it, let me first discuss academics. If you were to join our department, either in the civil engineering program or in the construction management program, what type of classes will you take? What do those academic requirements look like? There is some overlap, obviously, between the civil engineering and construction management program. The first year, because of the way the university and the college have designed the first year experience for our engineering and construction management students, the first year will look pretty similar if you are in either of the disciplines. The big differences between civil engineering and construction management are: in construction management, you'll be taking only one math class, and that is Calculus 1 in your first year. And after that, you're not going to take any math because you don't really need it, right? But in civil engineering, you'll be taking more math classes, more science classes. So for example, you'll be taking general chemistry, you'll be taking calculus, which is the math class that CMs take. But at the same time, you'll also be taking calculus 2 in your second semester, and you'll be taking college physics, right? If you go head on over to construction management, because this is a much more focused discipline, you'll be taking classes on construction drawings, which you'll also take in civil engineering. You'll be taking calculus. You'll be learning about construction safety. You'll be learning about building information modeling in your construction drawings 2 class, so how to build complex 3-dimensional models. You learn how to communicate well by taking classes in intro to effective communication, English composition, etc., etc. Heading on to year 2 in the civil engineering program, year 2 and 2.5, I should say, you'll be taking more discipline-specific classes. So you'll be taking statics, you'll be taking basic strength of materials, you'll be taking your third math class, which is dynamical systems, and you'll be also taking general chemistry or college physics to science classes, right? Once you're done with those, then you'll be looking at more civil engineering specific classes, such as transportation engineering, structural analysis, some construction classes such as construction documents law and project delivery systems. Within civil engineering, you can become a structural engineer, transportation engineer, geotechnical engineer, even construction engineer. So there are a number of sub-disciplines, and our curriculum is designed to help you get knowledge of breadth of knowledge in all of these areas. Now, let's head over to construction management and see what second year in construction management looks like. Now, in construction management discipline, we are focused on construction only. So our classes are much, much more focused in the second year. So you'll be similar to civil engineers, you'll be taking civil engineering measurements, you'll be taking statics and basic strength of materials, but you'll also be learning about how to optimally use construction equipment at site. You will learn about construction documents, law, and project delivery systems. You'll be taking classes on construction methods, supervision, how to actually build structures, right? You'll be taking classes on construction estimating. How do you estimate the cost of a project? So if you have to estimate the cost of, let's say, a 60, 70, $80 million project, those are very, very complex projects. How do you do it in a structured manner so that your company does not end up losing millions of dollars, right? So how do you do that? You are going to learn that. You are going to learn about construction materials, so on and so forth. So these classes are significantly more focused on construction management. Now, if we head on to our rest of the curriculum, in civil engineering, you will be taking a lot of diverse classes. So for example, you'll be learning fluid mechanics. You'll be learning structural loads and systems. So for example, I'm sitting here in my office on the 8th floor. how does my weight and weight of this furniture around me get taken by the slab underneath my office, and how does it get transferred to the foundations that are several hundred feet below this building? How does that happen, right? So you'll learn structural loads and how they travel in this class. You'll take your next math class, which is linear algebra, which will be important for you in the future. In addition to this, you'll be taking one construction management class, either estimating or scheduling. You'll learn about hydraulic systems, so on and so forth. In your last year, you notice that you have a number of classes in various sub-disciplines of civil engineering. So you'll learn a little bit about construction. You'll be taking geotechnical classes, for example, design of building foundations. You'll learn structural. You'll take a class in structural design, either concrete design or steel design. And you'll be also taking classes in, say, transportation engineering, right? So this is how your academic career will flow in the civil engineering. In the construction management side, again, because the discipline is focused, you'll be taking classes in quality and safety management. You'll be learning a little bit about what the civil engineers learn, because as construction managers, you'll be responsible to build their designs. So you need to have technical knowledge. So a structural design class, your soil mechanics class will give you technical knowledge. At the same time, you also need to have managerial knowledge, right? Because you're going to be project managers, you're going to manage projects worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe, right? So you need to know, financial accounting, for example. You need to know how to manage projects well. Modern buildings have very, very complex heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, because we are trying to make them as efficient as possible, right? So you'll be taking 2 classes on mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, right? CM 3030 and CVE 5146. You'll be taking classes on how to complete a project in time. So you'll be taking classes on productivity and lean principles, and also planning and scheduling. In addition to this, in your 5th year, you'll be taking classes on construction law. You'll be taking classes on construction leadership and decision making. You'll be taking lots of variety of classes as business electives, technical electives, so on and so forth. So this will wrap up your education in construction management, right? So this was a brief overview of your curricula in either civil engineering or construction management disciplines in our college, right? So if I were to summarize this, civil engineering curriculum is designed to give you an extremely strong technical foundation, good foundation in math, good foundation in science, and good foundation in applied disciplines like structural design, like transportation engineering, like geotechnical engineering, like water resource engineering, etc., etc. Construction management, on the other hand, is focused on managing construction projects as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So if you look at construction management curriculum, you have some technical classes, you have some classes that focus on effective communication. You'll take some classes on management and how to be a good manager. You'll be taking some classes in managing construction and taking a deep dive into, managing costs and schedules and quality and safety and all that stuff in construction program. So here you have 2 QR codes. All you have to do is just hold up your phone, next to your screen, and it'll take you to UC's program page, where you'll be able to look at everything I've discussed so far and look at the curriculum in a little more detail. So I talked a little bit about academics. The next thing we're going to talk about is co-op. Hold on, there is a text message. Okay, all right, never mind. The next one I'm going to talk about is co-op, because University of Cincinnati has the oldest co-op and probably one of the best, if not the best, co-op programs in the country. So as a requirement, our students are required to take at least 3, but as many as 5 co-ops during their undergraduate career. That means after your first year, you'll be essentially in the classroom for 6 months. You'll be working for a construction company for 6 months or a design firm for 6 months if you're in civil engineering. And you'll be doing this all the way through your 5th year. So 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, for 3 years, you're going to be rotating in and out of classroom. This will allow you to essentially apply whatever that you've learned in your classroom into the field and kind of reinforce that learning. So the co-op is a part of your education. You're learning on your job. And our companies that work with us, they treat it as such. They treat you as employees and they give you serious work that they don't really ever ask you to make coffee or make copies, right? You're doing serious work and they pay you accordingly. On an average, between civil engineering and construction management, you can look at hourly wage of $17.40. This varies from company to company, but that's a good average. In their 5th year, I've heard of students getting more than $23, $24 per hour. So these are barely averages, right? As far as employers go, on the civil engineering side, Ohio Department of Transportation, which manages projects worth billions of dollars for state of Ohio. So any state route that you drive on, any highway that you drive on, all their maintenance, et cetera, that's what ODOT does. They hire our civil engineering students because our students are much more technically proficient, right? You can work for all of these companies. So if you work for Kleinger's or Byron Becker, you'll be learning how to do civil site design. That means designing an entire subdevelopment, residential subdevelopment. How do you design that? How do you place the roads? How do you place the houses? How do you design the drainage? All that stuff you're going to learn in these companies. If you want to learn more about soil and how do buildings interact with soil, you can work with Terracon. If you want to design structures, design those beams and columns and slabs, you can work with THP or Schaefer. Right, so you have lots and lots of opportunities to, choose a path that you feel passionate about, right? So there is a lot of diversity of opportunity in our civil engineering field. On the construction management side, you have a lot of opportunities there as well. So if you come to UC campus, you will notice that there are 3 projects that are under construction right now. The first one is at the corner of MLK and Clifton. There is a big building that is coming up, so you'll see a large tower crane there. The other one is in Calhoun Hall, and the third one is Law College. So Messer Construction Company is building 2 of those projects, and Skanska is building the new Law College building. These are 50, 60, $70 million projects. Turner Construction Company built the new business college on campus that was close to $100 million project. So you can go and work for these companies and really, really get immersed in very, very complex projects. And they treat you as a valuable resource. They know that you're smart, they know that you're capable, and they want to, 1, teach you, and 2, get productivity out of you. So it's a great, great learning experience for my students. If you want to build roads and highways, you can go and work for Jurgensen Group. If you want to travel, Walsh Construction is based out of Chicago, and they have projects all over the country. If you want to build subdevelopments, entire housing subdevelopments, you can work and go and work with Fisher Homes. If you want to focus on electrical systems, you can go and work with Helix Electric in San Diego. So there are lots and lots of opportunities, diverse opportunities available to our students because of our co-op program. This is just a bare, list of companies that want to hire our students. The demand for civil engineering and construction management professionals is so high, and I'll discuss that in a little bit, is that last fall, traditionally we have our career fair in the campus rec center on the campus. But this fall, we had to rent an entire large auditorium in Tangeman University Center just for civil engineering and construction companies that want to hire our students. Everywhere I go, I get asked one question, will you please, let people know that we are looking for either co-ops or full-time students, because the demand supply gap is extremely lopsided. There is a huge amount of demand right now, and there is not enough supply from our end in the universities. So much so that last year our dean asked us to increase the number of civil engineering construction management students in our program. Right now we have about 50 students per class year. We are going to increase that from 50 to 100. So we are going to rotate them in and out so we can maintain the quality of education we give you, while increasing the number of students that we graduate, because the industry really needs it in our local region as well as nationally. In Cincinnati, typically about $2 to $3 billion gets spent on construction alone, and I'm talking about only greater Cincinnati area. I'm not even considering the Dayton market. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics, and again, the QR code is at the bottom if you want to go to their webpage. Civil engineering profession is going to grow about at 8% on an annual basis from 2020 to 2030, whereas construction management is going to grow at a rate of 11% from 2020 to 2030. And we can see it in person because, I have a lot of construction companies that are reaching out to me wanting to hire my students. And I can actually see that in real time, because there aren't usually enough students for the number of jobs that are out there. And the salaries are pretty good too. Please note that these are not necessarily starting salaries. These are a few salaries a few years out. I'm going to say 5 years out after you graduate. The beauty of the discipline, civil engineering and construction management, is that no matter what happens, the society is going to need roads, bridges, water, houses, buildings, all of these things to function. So unlike some of the other industries where there is a huge fluctuation depending on what the stock market is doing or what the rest of the economy is doing, our job market and the profession is pretty stable and secure. So that's one huge advantage of being a civil engineering or a construction manager, right? So what kind of careers you can have in this industry? On the civil engineering side, like I said, there is a breadth of opportunities available. You can be a structural engineer. A structural engineer designs buildings, structures. So all the beams, all the columns, all the slabs, the foundations, how big should the beam be? How big should the column be? How thick should the slab be? Etc. etc. Are we going to use concrete? Are we going to use structural steel? Are we going to use wood? So those are the kind of decisions structural engineers make. So if you're really good at math, this is one profession that will really attract you. You can be a transportation engineer. You can design roads. You can design the signal systems. You can time the signal systems. So every city has a transportation engineer. Ohio Department of Transportation employs a lot of transportation engineers, as well as lots of consultancies employ transportation engineers, because there are lots of studies that need to be done in terms of adding new capacity to roads or timing signals, etc., etc. Now, with the advent of connected vehicles, your car is becoming more and more computerized. The car can talk to, your cell phone. The car very soon is going to also talk to the signal. So for example, if I'm at a T-junction and there is no traffic going this way, and there's a big backup building in this direction, all of these cars are going to tell the signal, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. When are you going to let me go? And if the signal sees that there is no traffic in this direction, the signal will lengthen the amount of green light you're going to have in this direction. Now, this is all theoretical. The federal government and state government, they are all working at all of these solutions. These are not here right now, but I can almost be certain that in 5 to 10 years' time, these are the kind of things you're going to see in this profession. So in transportation engineering, there are lots of opportunities, exciting opportunities. You can be a geotechnical engineer. Geotechnical engineers design foundations. They study the behavior of soils. If you are interested in a really interesting project, on YouTube, go to YouTube and Google Millennium Tower San Francisco. This is a very large building in San Francisco. I'm going to say worth more than $2 billion. It's a residential and commercial building that is built in downtown San Francisco. Beautiful building. What has happened is over the last 2-3 years, one side of the building has started sinking because of the kind of soil the building was built on, and because it is such a massive building, that expected the building to sink a little bit, right? 4 or 5 inches is what that expected over the next decade. But what has happened is that building has already sunk by, I'm going to say, more than 10 inches. But more seriously, at one end, the building is sinking more. So the building in the downtown San Francisco is starting to lean. You can imagine, the people who are living in that building, people who spend millions of dollars to buy condos in that building are not really happy. So the city has employed geotechnical engineers. They're getting geotechnical experts because your building is going like this, right? So how do you ensure that it doesn't really lean anymore, and how do you make it straight, right? So those are the kind of complex things geotechnical engineers have to do. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a really, really interesting thing going on. You can also be a water resources engineer. You can design water supply systems that are really, really important for our day-to-day living. We never really think about how does the clean water get to my house from a water supply plant or water treatment plant that is tens of miles away from our home, right? So water resources engineer design systems that ensure that we get high quality clean water, potable water delivered to our home. You can be a civil site design engineer. You can design large subdevelopments, etc. And finally, you can also be a construction engineer. One thing to note is that in order to practice as an engineer, you will have to take an exam. You'll have to take actually 2 exams. The first exam is the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, which you will take in your last year of engineering college. And then after 4 years of working under a professional engineer, you'll have to take your second exam, which is the Registered Professional Engineer exam, which will allow you to practice on your own or with a company and allow you to stamp and sign documents, design documents, right? This is a regulatory legal requirement. So that's about civil engineering. On construction management, you're managing the construction. So if I were to really, really simplify the difference between civil engineering and construction management, civil engineers design the projects, construction managers physically build the projects, right? So there are a number of different types of roles and responsibilities you can have in the construction management profession. You can be a pre-construction manager. That means even before the project starts, in large complex projects that are worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, you have to do a lot of planning ahead of time before you even step your foot on the construction site. So pre-construction managers do that. You can be a construction estimator. You can estimate the cost of these projects so that your company can put forward competitive bids and make money. It's a very, very highly specialized skill to have. You can work at the site and you can actually physically supervise the construction as a site superintendent, so working with foremen, working with laborers, etc., and really actually running the site. So you can do that. You can be a project manager where you are above the superintendent and you are managing various different aspects of project, like material procurement, like interacting with the owner, like interacting with regulatory authorities, like interacting with engineers, architects, and making sure that information is flowing efficiently throughout the system, right? You can be a project controls manager and ensure that projects get completed on time. You can be a virtual design and construction professional. Construction companies are using laser scanners, they're using robots, they're using drones, they're using virtual reality, they're even using augmented reality. As a matter of fact, I have a HoloLens, Microsoft HoloLens in my office that my students use for their projects. So you can specialize in technology while being within construction management. And finally, you can also be a business development manager if that type of work excites you. So there are lots and lots of different opportunities in the construction management field as well. Here, you don't need to have a professional engineer's license because you're not designing anything, you're not signing off on any documents, so you don't have any liability for it, right? Okay, as far as research goes, because there is so much overlap between civil engineering and construction, I've listed all the various different labs that our department has, and I've also included QR codes, one for faculty research interest and the second for labs and centers. So if you don't really want to know more, you can look at this, you can scan this, and you can reach out to faculty members. Typically, by the time you reach your fourth or fifth year, you have enough basis and knowledge that you can perhaps participate in a research project with a faculty member. I highly encourage you to look at this as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is engagement. How do our students engage with each other, with the profession, with other companies outside of the classroom? Because in order to be successful as professionals, they need to learn how to work in teams. So you need to have teamwork skills, you need to have communication skills, you need to have leadership skills, right? So by getting involved with organizations that are specific to your discipline, you can actually take a significant step forward as compared to others that don't really do this. So for example, in case of civil engineering, we have American Society of Civil Engineers chapter. This is 100 years old chapter. So it has been around here since 1920s in various ways, shapes, and forms. Our chapter is, I can say, is among the top 1% in the entire United States. We got the Distinguished Chapter Award for Region 3 in 2018, 2019, and 2019, 2020, and 2021, 3 years straight. Region 3 includes all the states, almost all the states in Midwest. So we're talking about Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and 4 Canadian provinces, right? So our student chapter is the best in this entire region. So they're in top 1% in the entire country. Our construction management program has the Construction Students Association, which also is one of the best, if not the best, construction student association in the US. And you can see from this is like just a sampling of the trophies that they've won over the years. And some of these are national trophies, some of these are regional trophies, so on and so forth. It's really important for a student to get involved in these student organizations earlier on in their career because it yields significant amount of dividends in terms of personality development, in terms of just making friends with people in your discipline so that you can hang out with them, you can do homework with them. It creates your own network of friends that you can play cards with, that you can go hang out, watch a movie with, etc., etc. Right? So, and at the same time, be the best in the country, right? 2 of my students in the ASCE student chapter have won the National Student Leadership Award. Amongst all the civil engineering programs in the country, this award is given to only 5 students every year. And Nicole won it in 2019, and Autumn, who is our president of our student chapter right now, won it last year. So again, you know, our students are excellent and there are awards to prove it. Our ASC student chapter also participates in concrete canoe competition with all the schools in the Midwest in the Region 3. As you can see in this picture, this canoe is actually made out of concrete and it floats and students race in it. So there are sprints, there are slalom races, and it's a lot of fun. Students start designing this canoe in the fall. They build it in early spring. So this past weekend, this Saturday, we built the canoe for this academic year. And 3 years ago, our team made it to the nationals, and we traveled with the canoe all the way to Florida, and our students competed there, right? So you can build canoes out of concrete. Who knew, right? You can also build bridges. So there is American Institute of Steel Construction. Annually, they have a competition where they provide details like, imagine that you're building a bridge. There is a river in between. These are the locations where you can place your foundations. Now the students have to design a bridge that is going to, meet the performance criteria that are set by American Institute of Steel Construction. When we take it to the competition, our students actually have a race to complete the bridge in as little time as possible. Once the bridge is built, then the judges will load the bridge to make sure that under the given load, the bridge is not going to collapse, vertically, or it's not going to sway from side to side too much. So it's a fun competition. Again, our students design these bridges in the fall, and now in the room next to me, the bridge is already there, the parts of bridge. So they're going to start practicing how to build this bridge, right? On the construction side, we have a lot of construction management student groups, and this is just a limited list. So you have Construction Student Association, American Concrete Institute Student Chapter, Student Women in Construction, Sigma Lambda Chi, which is the Honor Society, etc., etc. These students do a lot of fun projects too. One of the funnest ones is, well, let me talk about it at the end. They partner with Habitat for Humanities, and they actually go and build houses. They organize these networking events so that you can actually, in the span of one afternoon, interview with 7-8 companies. It's a great interview practice, and in many cases, students find their co-op and full-time employment through this event. It's called Construction Connections. Funnily enough, companies get mad at us when we cannot accommodate them. We have had to increase the size of this event more and more. Okay, so the fun part. If you see here, you'll see a rubber regatta ducky, right? And you'll see the students that actually built this ducky. And this is made out of cans. Kroger donates thousands and thousands of cans to our students based on the design that they've developed. So this was the first year, and they decided that they wanted to build a duck out of these cans. So they actually created a nice design, they created the structure, and they actually built this duck. 2 years ago, when Finding Nemo was, not too many years ago, when Finding Nemo was a rage, our students actually built this amazing amazing structure out of it, right? It was displayed downtown, and Ellen DeGeneres tweeted it on her Twitter account. So we got national recognition because of this. But again, it's fun. You get to build fun structures. And then at the end of the day, all of these cans get donated to Free Store Food Bank. So you're doing a lot of, you're helping people in need as well. So there are lots of good things that come out of your engagement with your fellow students, with the university, and also with the wider community, right? That's what we pride ourselves on. We have very good connections with the industry. We want to be good citizens of the community that we live and work in. In addition to this, our CM students also participate in competitions. These are construction-related competitions, and the number of awards they've won so far is just way too many to list right now. It's incredible. I think 2 pages ago, sorry, I'm going back. So if you want to know more about these organizations, all you have to do is click on these QR codes, and one of these links will take you to CSA page where you'll see the list of awards they won. It's quite phenomenal. Our student chapter, our Construction Student Association chapter is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire United States. This brings our program into spotlight. This ensures that our students get continuously employed. So it's a win-win-win for everyone concerned. You get to travel for these competitions. So, for example, exotic places like Columbus, Chicago. We go every year to Chicago. There are a couple of competitions in Nevada. Las Vegas or Reno. Students are actually in Reno right now participating in an electrical competition. Students just came back from Orlando. They participated in the National Association of Home Builders competition, and in some cases the ABC competition, and is in Honolulu, sometimes is in San Diego, etc., etc. All of this travel is paid for by the university. The airfare, the hotel, your food, everything is paid for by the university. All you have to do is go there and compete and represent us in the best way that you can. So with education, co-op, and engagement in the student organizations, you can really build a very, very solid foundation for your future. The main difference between civil engineering and construction management is civil engineering is a design discipline, right? Construction management is a discipline that focuses on actually bringing the designs to reality, actually building those projects. So civil engineers take, there are sub-disciplines which allow you to become a structural engineer, geotechnical engineer, transportation engineer, water resources engineer, or even construction engineer. You can pass exams and become a professional engineer, or you can be in construction management, where you can manage these large complex projects. You can build houses, you can build roads, you can build bridges, you can build commercial facilities, you can build warehouses, you can build hospitals, whatever area your interest lies in. Okay, so this was a brief comparison between the two disciplines. So if you have any questions about criteria for transfer or information from, if you're in a high school right now and considering one of these two disciplines, there are links that Corinne can provide you later, and you can go to these links and find more information. If you need to talk to any of the students in the CM program, please reach out to me. My information is available on UC's website, so just email me and I will connect you to some students in our program. If you want a tour, if you want to learn a little more, if you want to check out my scanners or my VR headset or my HoloLens, I'm more than happy to spare some time and hang out with you and show you that as well. So I believe that Corinne or Alex is going to send you a bunch of information about all of this. And you can take it from there. So I have come to an end. The presentation has come to an end. Do you guys have any questions about civil engineering or construction management?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I am a civil engineering major.
Okay.
Yeah, but I want to base more in construction engineering.
Okay.
Do you think civil engineering is the best choice? Because I want to base more in construction.
So the difference between civil engineering and construction, if you really want to think about it, in civil engineering, if you stay in the discipline, you'll be taking classes in transportation. You'll be taking a bunch of structural design classes. You'll be taking classes in fluid mechanics. You'll be taking classes, all different classes. You'll take probably 3 construction management, maybe 4 construction management classes in your CM, in your civil engineering degree. Whereas if you transfer to construction management, every single class that you take is going to be focused on construction. All of your co-ops are going to be focused on construction. Your involvement with your friends and everyone around you is going to be in construction. So the question I have is, do you see yourself, in your future in construction? For sure. If that is the case, then construction management may be a good option for you.
Yeah, because I love designing. I want to do designing. At the same time, I want to do construction, like designing and construction at the same time. So that's why I choose civil engineering.
Mhm.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like civil engineering is no more in construction.
You can, if you're strategic about it, you can do your construction co-ops and learn construction from there. But as far as your education on campus goes, the CM program is focused on construction. We don't do a whole lot of design, obviously, because my students are not training to, do designs or, have their designs approved by someone else or take liability for the designs. My students learn design. So CM students will take classes in structural designs, they'll take statics, they'll take mechanics, they'll do materials lab, they'll do soils lab, because they have to actually build these structures, right? So they need to know why the decisions were made the way they were, and they need to understand the rationale behind the decisions. So that's why they take design classes, but CM students don't do any design work. They are actually managing construction. That's what the discipline is focused on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And if you're on campus, if you want to meet with me or any other CM faculty, I'm more than happy to organize that.
Thank you.
Do you have other questions?
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and wrap up. Again, if you have any questions that you think of after today's meeting, please reach out to the email addresses we have provided in the chat, or Dr. Deshpande has kindly offered to allow folks to reach out to him directly as well. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.